Hello everyone and welcome to game. Alright, welcome to game 3 in this best of 3 series between Inori versus Imperial here on Tal'Darim Altar. Inori spawning as the red Protoss player, Imperial spawning as the pink Protoss player. A Protoss versus Protoss matchup. Game 2, a rather long game, even though it really felt like I believe, yeah, it really felt like, I'm trying to remember the names correctly. It was Protoss versus Protoss. Oh, okay, I won't spoil it. Even though it felt like one of them had complete control of the game for quite some time. We'll see what's going to go down here in this final game here. It is tied at 1 game apiece. And in game 3 in this best of 3, we'll see what strategies will come out and what these players will try to do to each other. Now, in the last game, we didn't see that much scouting going down early on in the game. So without too much scouting, or with limited scouting, both players were able to just sit inside their base for a little while and establish and really flesh out their strategy, make sure that they had the right combination of units before they moved out. One player did have Colossi and was able to engage rather quickly. The other player opted to go the Twilight Council route and was able to try and start a base race. The base race wouldn't have worked or nearly have been effective, except for the one of the Protoss players ended up losing many of their Colossi when trying to save their own base after the base race, getting them out of position and then into a whole lot of trouble. Now we'll see what's going to go down here. It looks as though both players are pretty much opening up very similar strategies. Imperial is going for Imperial is going for that assimilator gateway play. Both players pretty much neck and neck, but Imperial is going for a faster scout, and it looks as though he will not scout out his opponent for a little bit of time. Imperial finally scouting out in the clockwise direction, and in a little bit he will find his opponent after scouting out the 10 o'clock position. Now, gateways are training up a zealot over here by Inori. Imperial not training up a zealot just quite yet. He is behind once again in terms of the overall mineral count, since he did try to scout out with that earlier probe. But we'll see what's going to happen next, as it looks as though another gateway being placed down by Imperial. This is something that is not normally done, so I'm curious as to what Imperial's overall strategy will be. He is going to be able to train out perhaps a lot of stalkers, 2-gate stalkers into warp gates, as we also see that Inori is scouting out in the wrong direction. One zealot a bit on patrol here. We'll see what this probe is going to do. The probe is going to run by, get hit once already, and now walk inside this base. Nope, he does not walk inside this base. Now just going to circle back around and not get any scouting information whatsoever. The probe now going to perhaps hang over at the Xel'Naga Tower, as we are going into additional stalkers here. One stalker now being trained, perhaps a second stalker will be added, and these are going to be trained, or stalkers are going to be trained well before the warp gate tech is completed. Warp gate is now being researched and chrono boosted out. Three stalkers total will be on the field in just a short time, and we'll see what's going to happen next, as Imperial does have one stalker sitting here at the ramp. There is one probe on patrol in between those two locations. The stalker now going to make his way over to the Xel'Naga Tower, perhaps try to get sight of that probe. The probe does already back away, and I believe, yes, that stalker will see that the probe is retreating, and now 2 more stalkers do join in on the fight. 2 stalkers and a zealot versus 3 stalkers, so 3 versus 3, except for the stalkers will have superior range. That earlier zealot not going to be able to do very much of anything, except Inori currently warping in off of 3 gateways and now upgrading already into warp gate. Back down over here, we can see that we are going to have 4 warp gates now warping in, and we already have Imperial with that proxy pylon set up. Who has the superior count? It is 24 probes versus 22, and here we go. It looks like we are ready to go, as the stalkers are now going to try to engage the stalkers. They're able to get off some damage here. Inori actually taking some actual damage, as a zealot may be out of position. The zealot is a little bit slower. as the Zealot now down to 63, 37 hit points. It looks like the Zealot will get taken out. So that early Zealot did not do much of anything. Stalkers are getting a bit of an exchange there. One Stalker does get taken out on both sides, or rather 2 Stalkers on both sides. And now let's take a look at the losses. 450 versus 350. Imperial now warping in some Stalkers up onto the high ground here as Imperial going to start this Stalker war. 44 over 50 versus 42 over 50. That one Zealot in a bad position already. Is it going to take any more damage? That is going to be the question. They're already down to 73 hit points. It's going to get taken out as the Stalkers are going to engage. A little bit of micro coming across both sides. Stalkers are taking a lot of damage, and the better concave of Inori as Imperial tries to win out this war. It's not looking good. We see that it is 6 Stalkers to 5. We are going to be getting up a Zealot now, and here we go. So in comes the reinforcements. Imperial losing another Stalker as they are trying to engage once more. Let's take a look at the army cab. The army tab, it is 8 Stalkers versus 7s. There is 1 Zealot. That Zealot will be able to absorb a bit more damage as the Zealots do decide to back away alongside the rest of the Stalkers. There is 1 pylon now down on the low ground, and a very smart move. Imperial knew that he would not be able to continue that pressure. And if he tried to continue that pressure, he would most likely have lost, as Inori does have home field advantage. He would have been able to perhaps get in a little bit more probes into that fight in order to absorb some damage. And in this stage of the game, every round of attack really matters. Imperial currently sitting on a lot of energy on his Nexus. He should perhaps be trying to chrono boost out more probes once again. Meanwhile, taking a look back at Inori. Inori a little bit better as 1 proxy pylon has been taken out. We are sitting on 7 Stalkers and 1 Zealot at this proxy pylon here, as there is 1 probe walking into the rest of the group of units there. The Zonaga Tower has been activated. The Stalkers are now doing a little bit of a split up here, and 1 Zealot going to lead the way. Is it going to be enough? Yes, as the rest of the Stalkers do a bit of retreating, and Imperial has lost another pylon. 1775 versus 1475, and we'll see how the rest of this will go down. We are almost at the 10-minute mark in this game. Both of these players have not set up their expansion just quite yet. Most of the time in a Protoss versus Protoss mirror match, expansions are taken around the 14-minute mark, as you want to make sure that you spend every mineral that you can on units, just in case your opponent is trying to knock at that front door. Nexus now chrono boosting out an Immortal, so it will be an Immortal versus Immortal battle. Immortals deal 50 damage per shot and are very effective against Stalkers. They take more damage, and they are also able to deal more damage, as Inori is the first to place down a Nexus. Nexus now coming into play, and with home field advantage, that may work out. Imperial now trying to perhaps continue to just chrono boost out more and more Immortals, but by the time he makes a move out and goes outside, Inori will have 3 Immortals most likely as well. You can see an Observer now being trained. Oh, that may be the downfall of Inori. He's not going to have nearly as many DPS units, especially as we are seeing that 3rd Immortal now being trained. Imperial could perhaps try to pull off probes, but most likely he will not, as he's just going to try to set up a proxy pylon somewhere on the map. We are now going into our into our Observer finally, as we now see an Observer making his way over from the main base of Inori. Inori's Observer has to be very careful when it's inside the base, as Imperial may have an Observer nearby and be able to shoot down that 1 unit as well. We are already getting a Twilight Council. There it is. Blink should be researched momentarily. There it goes, now being researched, and we should have perhaps a couple Zealots being added in order to add in more and add more to that army after the use of that 150 gas there. No expansion has been established here, and we'll see what's going to be happening next, as the Observer now trying to fly around. Imperial, does he spot that Observer? Yes, that Observer now trying to get away, desperately trying to get away. Will it be able to get away in time is the question, and now it looks like it is taking a bit of damage, and 1 final shot, and it does go down. So Imperial keeping track of of his map, and seeing that Observer, spotting the Observer and taking it down. That was a huge move, as we are now going into a robotics bay. The robotics bay will allow for the training of Colossi, but that is going to be a bit of a problem, as Inori is not going to have a Colossus up for a little bit of time, as we now see these units finally making another move out. We are chrono boosting out one Immortal. Are we going to perhaps chrono boost out a Colossi? We are trying to, but there is no pylon ready for it, and that is going to be bad news. In comes this Colossus now. It is now being chrono boosted. There is some energy left on the main nexus, some energy at the natural expansion, and it's really going to come down to whether or not Inori gets enough Colossi, and if that Colossi does enough damage. Blink is already completed. You see there's Observer up on the high ground, Proxy Pylon down on the low ground to warp in more units, and there we go. Stalkers coming in, focusing down probes one at a time, and it looks like some damage could be dealt. The Stalkers are looking to perhaps retreat. Immortals are ready nearby, and Inori should have spotted that Proxy Pylon, as now Zealots are warping up onto the high ground. Very bad news. A bit of a pincer play here, as a Colossus now finally joins in on the fight. Zealots not going to go to town onto the probes, as a Colossus now making its way over, blinking back by those Stalkers to save those units, as the Zealots have finished off pretty much all the probes at the natural expansion. The probes now in danger of being taken down here, as they are running into the main base. The main base, one Zealot now left, as we are going to see more units now perhaps try to walk up into the main base here. Stalker's going to focus down the Colossus, and there it goes. But there are still some Immortals nearby. The Immortals looking to perhaps focus down the rest of the Immortals. The Immortals need to focus down the Immortals, as the Immortals are going to be key in this next battle. 3 Immortals compared to 2. Imperial playing beautifully so far, as the Stalkers are going to finish off this here, and I believe that will end up being a game deciding decision and play, as the Immortals are still just dealing tons and tons of damage. Here we go. Inori now down to 37 over 108. We do have one Colossus ready. Stalkers now trying to come by as well. The Stalkers are attempting to run away. The Colossus does not have extended thermal lance range, as the Immortal's now going to come back around, and it looks as though the Colossus is taking a little bit more damage than it would like, and there is the GG. Inori losing game 3 here on Tal Darim Altar. A grave mistake by not destroying this pylon when he saw it. Leaving one Immortal here would have been more than enough, or 2 Immortals would have been a very nice decision, trying to stop many of these pylons from doing any reinforcements. Once the Zealots got inside the natural expansion and were able to destroy many of the probes, the Zealots were able to once again get inside the main base, take them down, and it really felt like Imperial, even though he had home field advantage, was fighting a war on 2 fronts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed Game 3 and this entire Best of 3 series.